Hey guys, we're back. This time we're going to be taking a look at Arcadia Quest Riders from Cool Mini or Not. Mine was pretty delayed for some reason, so I'm just getting around to making it, but it's been out for quite a while now for some people. And this one adds new mounts that your heroes can ride into the dungeons. There's a new mini campaign that comes with this, as well as being able to add it to your original or Inferno campaigns. There are 6 mounts available in here. There was a pack of 2 mounts that was a Kickstarter exclusive, and then another 2-pack of mounts that were from the organized play. There were prizes that they ended up making available. And we'll get right in and take a look at what comes in the box here. And the first thing I have to say is that as much as I love Cool Mini or Not games, and I love Arcadia Quest, for the life of them, they have not figured out how packaging works, and they have some absolutely terrible inserts. So the first thing you have to do is find some new way to store all your stuff. Whenever you buy anything from them, it's kind of a given, but first thing we have right on top here is the new book. And the first half of the book is rules on how to use the mounts, how they work in the game. And then the second half is a specific campaign based on the game that you add it to. So they kind of crisscross here. I don't know if I can get it to focus on it, but you have your standard campaign that uses just this, but it needs either the original game or Inferno, and depending on which game you have, there's different options. And then if you have pets or Beyond the Grave, it also adds more options on the way through, so the campaign can change up based on what other games that you have to expand it with. And there's some of the different campaigns in the back there. And of course, as always, they have the rule summary on the back, which is always nice. We have new campaign sheets, which I don't know too many people actually still use these. Most people either just write it down. We take pictures of our stuff. They're nice to have, though. It shows you which ones you've done, who got what titles, who won, and things like that. And you can always Xerox these too. Photocopy, whatever you want to call it. Scan and print and have extras. And then on the back is a thing to show you whose guild had what. Same as the ones they've had in the other campaigns. Cards all slid all over. There are 3 new tiles. 29, 30, and 31. They have an A and a B side. A is for the basic Arcadia Quest. B is for Inferno. You can see they got like the lava breaking through. All 3 of them are that way. Just new tiles to allow for some new designs and map. I'm going to slide this aside here so we can make room. We have our new mission objectives for the new campaign. Tame wild mounts. Killing monsters. There's a couple new monsters in there. Saving pets, because you can combine it with pets if you wanted to. The race one's kind of entertaining. And they have new back art, so you know which campaign the missions go to. New quest missions are always fun. We have new monster cards for our new creature types. There's the Jackal and Malcor. And they come in the different levels. Level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 for each of them. Oddly enough, Malcor does not have a specific boss one like some of the other guys did. They had the named boss version, but I think he's always the named boss version. So we have new player boards. These are going to go next to your guild board. And you have your spot for your mount, and then 1 equipment slot per mount. I kind of find it funny that the pets have 2 equipment slots, but the mounts only have 1. But I guess there's less equipment overall, maybe. The interesting thing, though, is as you add more things like pets and mounts, you add more of these cards to the decks. Get the reward ones out of the way. And you have level 5, level 4, 3, 2, and 1 rewards. Even some starter equipment in there. The new starter equipment's basically, you mix these in with your normal starting equipment. You're allowed to choose 5 of the items to start with. So there's a slingshot promo card, there's the sickle that came with Beyond the Grave, there's the basic ones out of the base set. You add them all together, you're allowed to choose 5 of those cards in your starting. If you're playing with newer players, we usually let them use more just to have extra equipment. But new starting equipment's nice. Another new option. And then you have these equipment cards, just like anything else, that go shuffled into your normal equipment decks. Most of these are, I think they're like half and half, are basic equipment. Then you have a couple like these stirrups here that are specific to your mounts. Same thing happened with pets. You had a few in there that were specific to the pets. Odd thing is, the more of those you get mixed in there, the harder it is to get them, because now you have all of your base equipment, plus all the new equipment, plus these two that you're trying to get a stirrup or something for your mount. So it takes you longer to get those equipments. There's less chance. The more expansions you're playing with, the more stuff you have added in. There are some really cool new things in here, though. They really do like the whips. They're kind of cool. And most of them pertain to mounts, or at least the characters that come in the set, though. And there's a whole set of those from level 1 to 5. We also get a new reward deck. The various missions throughout the campaign have specific rewards. I think all of these are mount oriented. So that's the easiest way you're going to be to get mount specific cards. And of course we have 2 new heroes that come with the set. Gaston and Colette, both little furry guys there. Gaston's actually pretty strong. His ability is very useful, allowing you extra melee attacks. And Colette's is a little more limited in the fact that it only pertains to hammer and exotic weapons. Still both new and interesting characters to add to your collection. And then finally we have the actual mount cards here. There's 6 mounts in this set. Got Bok Bok, which is kind of a chocobo. Tashi, which is like a, I'm trying to think what they call those things, like a mammoth type thing. Ludo, which is a giant puppy dog. Tian Long, which is a dragon. Hornsteady is a rhino. Becca is an owl. And they each have their own unique abilities and strengths and weaknesses. I would like to point out one interesting thing of note too, is as far as the insert goes, they're absolutely terrible. I mean, you got the slots to put the mounts and things back in. They'll actually fit in here however they came out. And those are okay. Most people are going to find other storage options for that. The only thing else in the inserts is this little thing for cards. And they took the time to think of these smaller cards here come in this way. If you sleeve them, they no longer fit in there, but you can turn them and they'll fit in this way sleeved. I don't know if that was intentional or they meant to have a slightly larger card size and just changed their mind. But oddly enough, they didn't do it with the standard cards, which are probably the ones most likely to get sleeved. They only have one slot and it's too tight to fit in there with sleeves. And these larger cards don't fit at all once they're sleeved, if you can even find the correct size sleeve for them. So I just found it weird that they have a spot big enough to sleeve the smaller ones, but not the larger cards. Like they half thought of it. I'm more inclined to think that they originally had a different size card and then changed their mind. But still an interesting thing worth pointing out. And then finally we get to our miniatures box. I don't know if you can call them miniatures at this point. First thing we have is our 2 new heroes. They kind of look like Ewoks. I guess it all depends on how you paint them. They got the long bushy tail though. That kind of makes them stand out a little. Then we have our new Jackal miniatures. There's one here with a hunting spear. You got 3 of each pose here. So you got 3 of the guy with the hunting spear down. And then there's 3 with it up on his shoulder. Pretty much same quality you expect from Cool Mini on these. Decent amount of detail in them. The bases are kind of weird, the way they have them attached, but the guy's spear's bent. Neat trick if you get any that are bent like this. If you heat that up with a hairdryer and then run it under some cold water while it's still hot, it'll, or you get it hot with a hairdryer, you bend it to where you want it, and then put it under the cold water. It'll harden back up in the right position. I've had to do that with a few models to fix them over the course of my Arcadia Quest acquisitions. Next we have the new boss guy here, and he's one of the giant guys on the huge base. Shove things around. And he's got quite a bit of detail on him. It's going to be really hard to paint some of these details, though. I almost wish sometimes they would leave like an arm off of these guys to make it easier to paint. But that's my wife's job. She paints all my figures for me because I hate painting. But I think they look awesome when they are painted. And that's all the bad guys we get as far as new guys go. For our mounts, and he's probably the least detailed one in the fact that they left him just hollow base on the bottom. It looks weird, but they made this big enough so that you can put a character on them, including the snap-on color-coded bases. We don't actually use those because we paint our figures, and the snap-on base tends to scuff up the corners, so we don't actually use the colored bases, but if you do, they're made to fit those on there, so that's cool that they took that into consideration. So the Rhino, I love his armor. Like spiked mace on his tail is kind of cool too. Bokbok's just a interesting character all around. I'm not sure what character references is to. When I first saw it, I thought it was the dragon from Neverending Story, but it's supposed to be a dog and it has these barrels on it. I know you always see those stories of the dogs with the alcohol rescuing people in the cold snow, so I'm sure it has a reference to that. I just can't place where that one's supposed to be from. And the owl, now until this is painted, this drives me nuts, and it was actually pointed out to me that these are goggles. They're supposed to be up on his face when he's flying, but they pulled them down around his neck. Well, just the way the model looks without it being painted, it looks like he's wearing a bra. It cracks me up every time I see it. And then the dragon. The dragon probably has the most detail out of all of them. He's got these little... He's like a fuzzy dragon, which is weird because he's supposed to breathe fire. Look really cool when he's painted. He's got 3 eyes too. And that is a look at everything that comes in the Arcadia Quest Riders expansion. There's not a whole lot to it. It's a shorter campaign, but because it integrates with the existing stuff, it branches off. You add creatures from those, so you didn't need too many enemies. There's a lot of plastic that went into the mounts. The interesting mechanic with the mounts is when you're on a space, and say there's 2 guys in this space, similar to the boss rules, when they move into the space, those 2 get shoved. You can shove them out or behind or whatever. You can use that to your advantage tactically, and people have pointed out kind of loopholes, which I guess were intentional, where is you have a guild of 3 people, you're going to have 1 guy on the mount and your other 2 in front of them, and based on the map layout, you could literally use your 1 guy on the mount to push these 2 to here, and so on, and literally push them across the map to where you want to get to. And haven't played it enough yet to know if that's going to be an issue, but some people have brought it up, and it was worth mentioning. I guess it was intentional if you're going to use it that way. Some people abuse it, but it does kind of break some of the scenarios in older games if you decide to use your mounts in some of the original scenarios, as you can move around a lot quicker than you're supposed to be, because you can basically move your entire guild at once instead of 1 at a time. So keep that in mind. Overall, though, I think it's honestly one of the least favorite of the expansions to Arcadia Quest. Pets were fun, game-breaking in some situation. Beyond the Grave was great because it was a whole new campaign. Again, with Inferno was great because it was a whole new campaign, whole new enemies and everything on that. And while the new campaign on this does add some new stuff, I'm not totally sold on the whole idea of the mounts. I got them because I love Arcadia Quest, and we pretty much get everything Arcadia Quest. And, they're fun to play with once or twice, but I don't see myself revisiting this campaign multiple times and playing through. Like the original core game, I think I played through the entire campaign on there at least a dozen times. And we keep doing it because we still have fun, and we change up our guilds, play with different tactics and strategies, take a different route through, you draft different equipment, so it's different every time. But as far as the riders go, I'm just not sure how many times we're going to replay the campaign for this. And they're somewhat game breaking if you try to use them in the older campaigns that weren't designed for them. So keep that in mind. It's still a fun addition to the game. They still add new missions, new variety. There is that new campaign there. But they're not quite as good as some of the other expansions that are out there. And I'd say only go for this if you've already got Inferno, if you've already got Beyond the Grave, if you've already got pets. Then look into this one if you want to add more to your game. But as far as if you're just starting out, any of the other ones you're probably going to get more fun out of than these. The only way I see these maybe being a little more interesting to you off the bat is if you have younger children, because the bigger, chunkier monsters are, the mounts are really cool, fun things to play with. And they're just neat in that aspect. But the game mechanics and that aspect of it are kind of hit or miss. The abilities on a couple of the mounts are somewhat overpowered when you compare them to the others. So there's some obvious choices in there. So the only way to be fair is to kind of randomly draw mounts, and then you don't always get the one you want. And it's a nice addition to the game, but not a must-have as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for our look at Arcadia Quest Riders. Hope it helps you decide if it's something you're interested in, if you want to add it to your collection or not. The figures are cool, as always. I'm not sure why they made them out of chocolate plastic, because they look like they should be edible, but hey, that's just me. They did do a different color for the hero characters, are always that light gray. The monster characters are always the dark gray. So I think they did it on purpose, so it's something different for those people who don't paint to make them stand out. But it does look kind of weird until you get them painted if you're into painting. Anyway, as I said, decide for yourself if it's something you want to add or not. I think there's definitely better expansions out there, but if you already have everything, it is more stuff to add to your Arcadia Quest, new campaign and all that, new couple heroes, if, God forbid, you need any more heroes. But that's about it. So, as always, thank you guys for watching the video, and we'll see you in the next one.